Please be seated. It's so kind. Oh my goodness, this is a little embarrassing. I'll wait. We will wait. Welcome to Kevin Pollak's Chat Show. I am Oddly Chat Show, and we are coming to you live from the Dynasty Typewriter Theatre in beautiful Hollywood, California. How about that? Yeah. Question for management. Do I say Dynasty Typewriter at the Hayworth? Does it matter? It matters to you. Yeah, no, I need to choose. And Los Angeles. Oh, in Los Angeles. Okay.
Is now the wrong time to ask what Dynasty Typewriter means?
I can tell you.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm happy to right now. So first of all, this theater is haunted. That's the first thing you should know.
Oh, gosh.
There was a very bizarre and kind of cool murder that took place.
Cool murder?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, isn't that redundant?
Well, it is. Yes. It took place where we're sitting right now. My guest, Whitney Cummings, ladies and Jews. Thank you.
Hi.
Where we're seated right now.
I'm sitting on someone's grave.
There's a reason there's a carpet here. Yeah. It happened in 1921, and it's all online. You can read about it. In fact, I'll insist that you do. But we were chatting. We did the first 20 minutes of the podcast backstage, and it really went great. I got to be honest.
I feel like I'm going to head out. I feel like we covered it all.
I don't know what else there is to say.
Yeah.
We'll try.
Yeah.
We'll try to make something up. And the first thing we said backstage was, let's leave the performer's ego backstage. Let's just have a conversation. I feel like all I've done since I've been out here is perform.
I don't know how to answer that, because if I say I can't.
No, it's painfully clear.
Yeah.
So
trying just really quick. I never say yes to doing podcasts because I never know if I'm supposed to be being funny or being serious. Because now there's these things where comedians go on and like talk about their mental illness for 2 hours on for fucking free and Van Nuys for like the entire day.
It's always Van Nuys.
I know, always Van Nuys. And so I'm scared. I want you to know that right now. I'm already worried that I'm going to be boring, and I just want you guys, you especially, to know that.
I gave you very good news backstage, I believe. There's no way to fuck this.
That's right. I just want everyone to know, if I'm being boring, no one's more bummed about it than I am. So
That's right. It is impossible. So let's start thusly. Right before it came out, I was saying I wanted to talk about directing, because I insist that comedians have this control in our lives when we're on stage, and then nowhere else.
Correct.
Right? And I found when as long as I put it off, I finally came around to directing a film. And when I did, all the instincts and all the knowledge I had gathered from being a comedian served me more than anything I might have thought I knew about directing a movie.
Amazing.
Because, talking to the actors.
Yeah.
And so
amazing. And I also have this theory that being a director is basically dealing with 50 hecklers.
Yeah. Oh, keep going.
You just have people being like, this pillow color doesn't work on the camera. Like, everyone's just telling you all the mistakes you're making all day long. And the crew is like, it's time to break for lunch. Like, you just have to deal with hecklers for 12 hours a day. You know, the actors are like, this line doesn't make any sense. And you just have to pretend you know how to solve it. In a funny way. Yeah.
What if
you just improvise?
When you realize that, your replies to them were just heckler comebacks.
Yeah, it's your
right?
Totally.
This dress doesn't work. What other color can we do? I remember my first beer. If you literally tried the comeback lines that are listed somewhere.
You're paying people to heckle you all day.
I had not thought of it in those terms. That's kind of perfect.
Yeah, that's how it felt.
I'd always been told, have an answer for every question. It doesn't matter what you actually feel, just you have to have an answer.
Yeah.
When they come and say the blue dress or the red dress.
Yeah.
Don't have a choice, if you don't have a choice.
Because if you come off indecisive, it'll become Lord of the Flies.
Yes.
Basically?
Yes.
Like, because you're the leader, and if you give the impression that you're not the leader, someone else will emerge, and then it's, Donald Trump's our president, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That
was for you. That wasn't for them.
There's an over-under on how many times either one of us will say that. I put it at 9.
I would say, because I'm consumed with shame that I just did it, so I feel like if you have to make the next 8.
8.
Then.
Okay, good. But I also I've interviewed a lot of directors on the show, and and when we got to that point where they said, just have an answer,
yeah,
and about Lord of the Flies and having leadership, a few of them also said, I felt free enough to go to the cinematographer in private and say, I don't know shit from Chanel when it comes to lenses. That's your job.
Yes.
I'm going to learn on this film about lenses.
Yeah.
But from my research, I see that you know a lot about lenses.
Yeah.
So.
And then he was taught that he has to have an answer for everything. So then he made up a bunch of answers in
lenses.
Private.
About lenses, yeah.
It's the kind of thing I feel like everybody got the advice, even if you don't know what you're talking about, pretend. So everyone's pretending.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk first about the casting process, because I had a difficult time auditioning anyone.
Interesting.
I would just call people up and say, do you want to do the movie? Because
You didn't want to audition? You didn't want to insult them by asking them to audition?
Well, I certainly didn't want to do that, but I also didn't want to have an audition session where actors I knew and didn't know
it's the worst.
Came in one after another.
Awful.
And the few times we did, I would be a half hour behind after the first person, because I just kept giving them notes.
Correct.
And letting them try it again and again and again. How did you deal with that?
I've had to do a lot of casting in my day.
Yeah, as a producer of television.
And it's interesting, like I was so codependent, having had my soul ravaged by auditioning and being on the other side, and having just had my self-esteem just destroyed by it. I just tried to get ahead. I just tried to do basically the opposite of what every producer ever did when I went in.
Right.
You know, and I studied. I actually worked harder than most of the actors. Like I knew all their credits, I knew what they had done, because there's no better feeling when you're going into audition for something when someone's like, oh, I loved you in that thing.
Yes.
And it just gives you this instant boost of confidence. So even if I hadn't seen the thing, I must sound like a sociopath right now.
Not at all.
But I would just be like, I loved you on that episode of da-da-da, you were so great. And then you just see them kind of
come to life.
Loosen up. And
Sure.
because auditioning is such an unnatural thing. It has nothing to do with how good of an actor you are,
Nope.
I feel like.
No.
I know so many great actors that suck at auditioning.
And vice versa.
Totally.
Yeah, the
Some
people who master the audition.
Yes.
And then they come to set, and I don't know who this person is.
You know what the worst is? Auditioning children. Because they're great at auditioning, and they come in like little, remember Small Wonder? They come in like little robots, and they're just like, hi, how are you, ma'am? And you're just like, what's, and you want to like call child services. It like gets so confusing.
Yeah.
But in terms of casting the movie I did, we had no money.
Sure.
So I couldn't even pretend like I just sort of took meetings with people, really, and tried to beg them to do it. And I got very good advice from people about casting. Someone just basically said that directing a movie is 80% casting.
Yeah.
And so that made me like, because I'm really big on like cast unknowns, and I want to cast all these like fresh faces. I did a pilot for HBO, and I cast a girl that I saw like in a YouTube video to be the second lead. Like I just cast people that I like.
Right.
And but I got this advice: just cast people that you know that you will not have to direct very much.
Yeah. I would argue that writing is as important as the casting, and then get the fuck out of the way, basically.
Get out of their way. And I think that my job with the actors that I cast for a movie that I made, my job was really more to protect them from all the fires that were happening, so that they felt safe to like play, you know, and let them develop chemistry. That's another thing that I feel like I learned as an actor, is like call them in early and put them in the same makeup trailer so they can start flirting and like develop a little thing, you know, just give them the opportunity to
leave condoms.
Yeah, totally.
Sure. I get
just leaving some KY jelly in their trailer, and too gross on Sunday. And it really was just because an independent, I mean, you know, I mean, it's like,
no money.
You have no money, and so many people are quitting and fighting, and everyone's starving. Half the people on my set were like stoned. I was really just trying to protect them from all of that, and just so I feel like I was acting, as a director, all I did was act all day, and I acted like everything was fine. I acted like we had money. I acted like we were getting it, and we weren't. I'm like, we got it. We didn't fucking get any of that. We have no coverage of that scene. Yeah. You know, but you can't let people know that you're imploding and that everything, it's like a
that's the last thing you can, and there's another instinct you learn as a comedian.
Yeah.
Which is in your first 10 seconds, I feel.
Yes.
Some say 30, I say 10. You need to let the audience know they're in good hands, and everything's going to be okay.
Incredible advice. Incredible advice.
And I felt that as a director.
And you know what? I think that anyone who's not a comedian or not, I don't know who I'm talking to in here, that's the same with meetings and any job. In any place, you want people to be able to go, okay, this guy's in charge.
Right.
I don't have to worry.
Yeah. Or just this person's good at what I'm asking them to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Correct. I love that.
Yeah, so
But the auditioning process also, this is a very weird thing because I also felt like, and I'm not a super metaphysical person, but the universe kind of ends up casting your movie because so many people have, especially if you get big names. Like I had a bunch of actresses that in 3 days before the movie, they had to cancel and they got some other thing that was actually paying the money. So I got somebody else. And, like Lucy Punch, who is in the movie I just did, I got her like 3 days before, and now when I watch the movie, I'm like, I can't imagine anybody else in that part.
Yes.
But it's just kind of amazing how the Rubik's Cube comes together.
Yeah, and you think your worst day is when you lost the person.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
I lost my lead about 6 days before we were going to go, and I'd already been in talk, and the film's all built around him.
Nope.
Yep, and
nope.
he
Can't
wanted the job so badly.
Yeah.
And for 6 weeks, he was my guy, and we,
It's like being left at the altar. I mean, it is.
I guess.
A horrific feeling. Yeah. As someone who's been left at the altar many times, that's what it feels like.
I'm so glad you brought it up because that's what I really want to talk about. A Runaway Bride. Why Julia Roberts? So you put out a book which I want to talk about last year, and one of the things in the one book I put out called "How I Slept My Way to the Middle." Not just a funny title and technically still available. I did talk about. There's that performer's ego right there.
To the TV show The Middle. You got on that show. That's
right.
what it's about. It's about your quest to get on the ABC show The Middle.
Nailed it. But I did break off and in the middle of a chapter and talk about how the audition process is designed to fail.
Wow.
The way that it's set up. So the emotion that the actor has when they come in is the antithesis of what they will have on set when they have the job. Right?
Correct.
No matter how talented they are and how well they've broken down the scene and how good they might even be at auditioning, if I just say, I'd like you to do this part, their energy and brilliance flips completely from the insecurity that just walked in the room with, I'm not going to get this fucking job. Okay, I'll just...
You think you're going to get... That's the most fucked up about auditioning, is that fucked up part about it. Sorry, I get so excited I start skipping words.
It's okay.
You think you're going to get it, like in the car. And then
Yes.
you get to the office, and there's 9 other people there who are like running their lines, and they're like beautiful, and it's so tall. And then I remember.
And then one of them says, "Let me get a towel. Hold on a second." Looking at your forehead. Why would you say that? Right before you go in the room.
What's happening? No, I had one. I can't remember the name of the actress, and that's probably a good thing because it would get me in trouble. But I remember going in, and I'm like reading, and I'm like shaking, and I've been working on an audition for like 5 days, and then someone was like, yeah, so-and-so passed, so we're doing the straight offer to so-and-so. It looks like she's going to do it. Like for the role, because you're often auditioning for parts that are already gone or that someone's already, and it's just like such a, and then you go in and it's just like, this is so embarrassing.
Yeah.
It's impossible to have any dignity.
That's exactly right. And so all you can learn in terms of auditioning is leave it all there.
Yeah.
Leave the room knowing you did what you're capable of doing, and then just understand it's a percentage and a numbers game, and somehow figure out a way to not take it personally. That might be the most important part you can learn as an actor is to not take the rejection personally, because it's a lifetime of rejection. It's basically what you're signing up for.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
You want to be in show business?
Yes.
The line does not end. It forms out front. It goes around the block.
Correct.
And it does not end the number of people that aren't interested.
Right, and you're going to get mugged while you're waiting in line.
That's
and
right.
like, it's going to rain.
By an agent.
Yes, right. You're by your own agent. It's so fascinating. I mean, it's weird. It's like the only jobs I've ever gotten, and this is obviously not a coincidence, are the ones that I didn't think I was going to get and didn't care about getting.
Yep.
When you go in and you don't care, and that's such a, and maybe I am a really metaphysical person. Maybe I know nothing about myself. But when you go into a room, you can feel people's desperation, or you can feel people's confidence. And when, to your point about letting people know that you're in charge, when an actor comes in, I mean, I had the most amazing, you guys, can I name drop?
Sure.
This is a compliment, so I feel like I can say it. Jamie Priestley, the actress Jamie Priestley, I've never seen anything like her. She came in to audition for something. She came in, she had no pieces of paper in her hand, first of all. It's like an 8-page scene. She came in, most people are like, how are you? Oh my God, I got lost on the way. Like, life is so crazy. How are you? And everyone's just like squealing for like 10 minutes. And everyone's like, oh my God, like, I know you through so-and-so. And like, everyone's just so nervous because it's just like all these people whose dad didn't love them in one room, just trying to like get through it. And Jamie Priestley came in one day. I've never seen anything like it. She changed my life. She walked in, sat down, and she's like, is this my camera? And I'm like, hi. I started doing my thing, and she was like, I'm good. Like, she's like, I'm here to get this job. Like, we're all like, oh my God, my name is Earl. What was that like? And she's like, is this my camera? Does the scene, figures out, am I reading with you? Nails it, just crushes it. And it was like, nice to meet you. Left. That was it. We didn't end up casting her for 900 reasons.
Well, because you thought she hated you.
Namely, that's correct. Because I'm insecure and she's prettier than me and I can't have that happen. No, she booked a job like 20 minutes later. It was like pilot season and the agent was like, she has 5 offers, you have 10 minutes. And we were like, and she just got something else. But I wasn't mad. I wasn't like, because I'm always like, I have to go be nice to everybody. I have to be everybody's friend. And like, I have to just like show them how charming I am. Nobody cares. They just want you to solve their problem.
That's right.
She came in, she solved my problem, and she got the fuck out of there. And it was like the greatest, I just didn't realize that was an option.
Right. Well, also, we're overly concerned about the person having a pleasant experience when they come in.
Which is the irony, because when you're people-pleasing, you're making other people uncomfortable. When you're like, how are you? How was your day? Like, they've answered that question 40 times. They just want you to solve their problem.
Also,
that's how you can make them happy, is to just nail it.
Yes.
And I would just go in, and then it's tricky because your actual personality and the character, at least for me, are rarely the same, because why would anyone write this? And so I'll go in and I'll do sort of my thing, and then I have to be like, all right, and then and then they see how different you are from the character, and it feels more like acting.
Yes.
So I don't do small talk anymore.
Good.
Because I'm like, people are like, how are you? And I'm like, stop trying to make me lose this job. I'm not talking to you. Like, I just have to do that now.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the chi, the center of that truth is now they see you acting.
Correct.
That is the part that needs to be removed.
Now, what could have been good acting, just compared to your small talk, is going to feel false.
Yes.
Just let me come in and do it.
Also, they would, after you leave, they would say, God, he was so charming until he started reading.
I mean,
what happened?
Or I don't know if anyone here, I'm not talking to you people. I'm talking to you. I'm going to stop trying to do this. It's also like very tricky because you're very funny. And it's very rare that the material you're auditioning for is going to be as funny as you extemporaneously.
Right.
So you then make their material look less funny. Because all of you're killing, you're funny.
He got laughs before he read the...
And then he started reading our material. I guess he's not funny.
I
guess your material sucks. Maybe that's the problem, but it's just a very tricky sort of thing.
Well, let's talk about creating your own universe. First of all, how old were you the first time someone suggested you were an old soul or something to that effect?
Oh, that's interesting. That's not where I thought you were going with that,
That's all right.
Kevin.
That's good.
You threw me.
Well.
Hard. I used to get it a lot when I was a kid, but it wasn't quite as much of a compliment as the way you're saying it. It was more people just thought I was older. Period. Not like an old soul. They were just like, you seem older. When I was really young, I mean like 10, 12, because I was tall and I was loud and I was sort of had more confidence that I had earned.
Where the hell did that come from?
Which was mostly fear. It was mostly fear. Yeah. It was mostly, I think, growing up, I didn't get a lot of attention. I had to work really hard for attention. So I had to get loud and I had to get sort of refined and I had to be an adult in order to get attention from the adults.
Did you see someone do that behavior and it suggested to you it might work, or was that a weird instinct that kicked in?
It was a weird instinct. I think it's a youngest child thing. I think it's a
Same here.
Alcoholic home thing.
Yeah.
And I had to be the adult very young. I had to caretake everybody else. So I think I just like got a little too, I was gonna say promiscuous. That's not the word.
That happened later.
Precocious.
Uh-huh. My mother,
don't confuse those.
No. My mother was the center of she was the sun. We were mere planets revolving around her.
Right, sure. Yep, I know that.
And that was weird. I remember seeing old family movies, whatever they would be called. Yeah. Home movies, sure, that works too.
Porn.
And I'm being a little ham.
Yeah.
And she comes into the frame.
Yep.
Like this.
Yep.
And he clearly here's a 7-year-old
yep.
doing an act of some sort.
River dancing.
What is mom? Why would I don't know how you knew that. That's weird. Why is mom feeling the need to come in and tell me to make a muscle and then point to the muscle? And
yep.
That had nothing to do with my bit.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the reason I asked about, did you see that behavior in someone else in terms of attention getting might work?
I had a lot of chaos in my family, right? And it was like, I think I got rewarded for being together.
Oh.
I got rewarded for being funny, loud, injured, or mature. And adults would be like, you're so mature, you're such an old soul, da-da-da.
Yeah.
So I was like, keep doing that. I think being sick, for any kid, you realize you get attention, so there's a little bit of that victim mentality as well, which I think I nipped in the bud, I hope. And then loud. I mean, in my 20s, finally someone said to me, someone who had the balls to be honest with me, was like, I was just at lunch with a friend who was like, you're yelling.
I'm 3 feet away from you.
I have a microphone an inch from and I'm screaming because and I'm trying to like recalibrate I feel like Austin Powers, remember the calibrate the volume of my voice. That I don't do impressions. That's your thing. I'm so sorry that happened. And then I have to go, and I can't remember what the other one. Oh, funny.
Yeah,
funny.
Yeah, and that just happened one day.
And you have to sort of shapeshift. It was very, I had to be a chameleon. It was like, what mood is she in? What mood is it? What mom and dad? Okay, I need to be funny today. Okay, I got to be funny today. Oh, I got to be serious today. And then which I think is kind of ends up really helping you as a comedian, because the first thing you do is you walk out and you figure out what you're fucking dealing with.
Got to know the room.
You got to know the room.
Yeah.
And then you go like, I'm going to dip my toe in. You're like, whoop, nope, it's this kind of room actually.
Yeah.
So I'm in some weird way grateful for that.
Isn't it funny also when this happens to me, I assume it happens to everyone, when you misjudge the room. Like,
done that.
The corporate gigs always pay the most, and it's the worst audience because they didn't pay to see you.
Right.
It's really the
right,
nut
and
of
it's
it.
like rich white guys who just don't get it.
Right,
Yeah.
but also they're on a weekend retreat. They're playing golf. They're having drinks. They don't care that you're there.
No.
And also they were told to go see the comedian the same way they were told to attend the seminar earlier that day.
Correct.
So, just the idea that people made plans to come, that changes everything.
Everything. Once that goes online and buys a ticket. And,
yeah. So my instinct is always, this is going to go horribly, just have fun.
Yeah.
And then I'll be wrong sometimes when it goes well, and I'm like, this doesn't even make sense. And I just I prejudged the room. I didn't even misjudge it. I just prejudged it.
Right.
Fuck these people before I came out on stage.
Have you done any corporate gigs where you show up and it's like 20 people?
Sure.
And it's like that's the
and
my experience. In like a hotel room, and you're like, this time's up on this.
Yeah. The smaller.
I've done that. I've done a bunch of them where like my agent sends me. It's like at a hotel. The Breakers
money's insane.
in Palm Beach.
Yes.
The Breakers. It's like a big deal, and then it's like room 209, and you're like, what?
Whoa.
This can't be good.
Yeah.
I had to do comedy on a staircase in Las Vegas. I swear to God, it was like a hotel room. It was for CES, that big whatever. It was like some company, and it was a couch full of like 6 people, and the only place, because you can't stand equal to the people you're doing. That's just a conversation. That's not stand up. You have to in some way be elevated, right? That's the trick. So I just like stood on a staircase with like shrimp. There was like a shrimp buffet, and then there were people in front of me facing away from me, like swiveled around. I give up.
Bringing new meaning to these staircase murders.
Yeah. It was
the shrimp. You can't forget the shrimp. The smell alone.
It was just horrific. In colleges, I also misjudge grossly all the time. Performing for colleges, you think it's going to be like, it's going to be easy. I think it's more. I think I'm going to try to say this without making a mistake, because we got to walk on eggshells now when we talk, when things are being recorded. Maybe I should just not say it. I can't think of a way to say it that's not going to bite me in the ass.
Fair enough.
But you know what it is? It's the colleges I've been to. Generalizing is what gets you in trouble, right?
That's right.
So there's a kind.
On occasion.
I'm finding on occasion, sometimes, not that there's anything wrong with this.
Nope.
But occasionally college students are offended by everything.
Overly.
Sensitive. Some of them, not all of them.
Well, I mean, South Park almost dedicated a whole season to
right. I'm not the first
PC
person to say
and,
this.
Yeah, it's become a real...
But they're cartoons. They're allowed to. I'm a human. You can sue me. You can't sue a little chubby cartoon.
I think we could.
So it's kind of weird sometimes when you're like talking about stuff and they're like, I don't know. And it's like, oh, you're 20. Life hasn't crushed you yet. So they don't, they think that they have like morals still and that everything's going to work out. And that's hard to do comedy with sometimes.
Yeah, and you can't, I would think you would instantly resent a 20-year-old having an opinion about anything in the sense that you've not lived yet.
Yes.
What do you know?
Nothing.
Nothing. About your feelings.
Nothing.
Even.
Nothing.
Yeah.
So it's like this thing.
How dare I?
There's this self-righteousness that I had when I was 22. I totally get what they're doing. And I'm just like, oh, you still think like your opinions matter.
Well,
you know, like.
But maybe it's also that acting that we talked about to seem in control or even deserved of your time and attention. I mean, because I relate to what you're saying about being the kid and being a chameleon and adapting to and learning what the room was so that you could get the upper hand or at least not be thrown from a window. And I think pretty much most kids go through that.
Yeah.
And then we were talking backstage also about the freak nature of when someone has an ear to do impressions. So all children babies learn to speak by hearing sounds and mimicking them, right?
Yeah.
And that's why it's terribly inappropriate to say so many kids learn Spanish at a much earlier age than, that's inappropriate. So,
is it?
In Los Angeles.
Well, yeah, no, that is,
Yeah.
I think that's.
Sure, without a class structure.
Right.
But for the impressionist, we leaned into it and never stopped sort of honing that ear to mimic sounds and then mimic voices.
So are you telling me that the skill of impressions, which we can probably count on two hands how many people, I mean, I'm sure there's people out there that can do it that aren't famous, but how many famous people that can nail impressions the way you can? We can probably count on two hands.
Maybe.
Right? I mean, at least in America that we know, right? I'm obsessed with impressions because it is a skill I just don't think you can learn.
But it's a parlor trick.
But you're saying that it's fine, but that's disparaging it slightly.
But I didn't research. I didn't, you know what I mean? There are a few technicians that are brilliant at breaking down sounds from recordings, right?
Right.
And so for me, I just sort of become obsessed by Jason Statham, and then I just want to walk around talking like Jason Statham, and then someone laughs, and I go, "Oh, I can."
And then
Jason
you got
Statham.
it,
right?
But because you were just implying that, or you were saying rather, that a lot of it is nurture as well as nature.
Yeah, you hear sounds. So I think kids in the parallel I'm trying to draw is we as teenagers and then later in our early 20s have that thing of I just want to sound like I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Because I hear other people doing it.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to mimic that sound and behavior. That's why I say to a 20-year-old when they say, you remember nothing. No one cares. You haven't lived. You don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
Like a comedian rarely finds their voice, their view, their slant, their opinion on stage and has the freedom to speak their mind way beyond their early 20s because no matter how much stage time you've had, your worldview just hasn't been formed, right?
Right.
So, worst segue ever, I would love to know the process of you writing your book because you had written already.
By the way, has there ever been a good segue?
No. I just got bored with myself and thought we should change
Comics
the subject.
hate segue. It's like a nightmare. My thing is like no segue is the new segue.
It's the best.
Just like, and that's why I got married. Anyway, the Holocaust, like you just have to hard pivot.
Yeah. And good luck finding a more difficult two subjects to bridge than Whitney just suggested. Yeah. You'd already written for television. You'd written probably for movies as well. Forgive my ignorance. But sitting down to write a book of your experiences, and in your case, a book that at its best will be entertaining and helpful, right? That seemed like the two objectives.
That was my goal.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you for.
But for someone who's clearly, as all performers do, qualifier, questioning everything they do, think, and speak,
Nightmare.
How do you stop editing yourself? How do you let it flow?
That is such a great question that no one else would ever think to ask, because that is ultimately the best question. I think that a lot of people that aren't performers or artists in some way don't understand, which is like people are like, it must be so hard to write a book. And I was like, no, it's just hard to stop writing a book. That's the hardest part about it, is stopping. Because you never think you're done. And right. I got in a perfectionist paralysis where I had a pit in my stomach. Like the idea of it being done, I was just like, this isn't done, but.
Because you wanted to keep editing and changing.
Make it better and funnier and better, but you just have to kind of know when the diminishing marginal returns come in, when you're actually just making lateral changes and you're just kind of like, just sort of, this joke is just as funny as this joke. It's just, I happen to know it, It
wasn't Foster Freeze, it was Dairy Queen.
It's exactly right. I will change around the reference of a fast food chain 400 times giving myself the illusion that I'm improving it.
So did you have an editor that helped with that?
I did have an editor who was super helpful, and she was very like, that's great. Why would you change that? Like, I kept changing. She's like, go back to the other one. Why do you keep changing it? Like, she was just like, does not get the neuroses, but that was super helpful. And I think for me, I just gave myself a deadline, and there's a certain point where you have to put it down, but there's this new thing where you have to go record an audiobook. And then you got to read the thing you wrote 3 months ago, and you're just like, want to kill yourself. You're like, this is a nightmare.
Thing.
This is out? Like, they're printing that? You want to just go buy all of them. You're just like, I can't let anybody see this. It's just so awful. But the book, I think part of the, I don't know. I've gotten to the point where I feel like the most rewarding projects are the ones where you're satisfying some sort of internal need.
Sure.
Because this stuff is so hard that if you're not doing it for some sort of bigger purpose, you're gonna want to. You can't cross the finish line.
Right.
For money or whatever. It's just that's not enough sometimes to do something that destroys your life this much. Because it's like the kind of stuff I put in this book is like, I was like, I'm gonna die alone. Like, no one, the guy that I'm dating can't read it. It's just like a deal we have. I'm sure he's doing it right now. This is the first time we've been separated.
Yeah, how does that?
I won't let him leave my site for the past 6 months because I'm afraid he's gonna Google it. Because I put like secrets in there. I mean, it's like it's like I wrote a diary and let it out. You know?
But you did.
It kind of.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it is.
Right.
But,
that accomplishment alone seems impossible, first of all, to be that honest and vulnerable and I mean, I didn't in my preparation have time to read the entire book, qualifier.
What?
I know, but I will say the first 17 pages are unbelievable. So in going through it,
you missed the chapter about you.
Well, no better way to get me to read the whole book than that. But just discussing certain aspects of your life that just instantly dial you in as a reader because they are so open and honest. When you sat down to write the book, was that just, come what may, I'm going to do that? I'm at least going to do that.
I think
or did it come as you were?
That's such an interesting question. I think for me, I'm so paralyzed by the fear of being boring that I couldn't justify writing a book that wasn't like
that was just fun.
Titillating. Yeah, it was the kind of thing where I was just like, oh, and then I did, like, I just couldn't write about anything that I didn't feel like people would be like, oh, shit. Like that's kind of, I set out the goal to write the book that I wish had been available to me when I was 20, just when I was like struggling with mental health issues and body image issues and eating disorders and all this stuff. And I was like, I would go into the self-help aisle and all of the books made me feel worse. They were all these like depressing, like super bummer books. I was like, I wish someone had written like a funny self-help book so that I could have,
I'm fucked up and you're okay.
Yes, exactly right. Exactly right.
Yeah.
That's like what I needed. And I also, so many of the things I was dealing with had to do with shame, which shame is, about keeping secrets. And I had all of these secrets. And I learned that the only way to kind of like heal is to stop keeping secrets and holding on to these dark things that make you feel unworthy and unlovable. And the way that we release that is to admit them. That's why like 12-step programs work. That's why therapy works, because you're just saying like, I want to do this bad thing.
The talking therapy.
As soon as you say it, it diminishes its power.
Yeah.
And
it's
so,
just out there. Now what?
Yeah, so it was kind of anathema to my brain to like write a book full of bullshit. You know, I just didn't want to write like a masturbatory, like pat myself on the back. Like I didn't want to charge people $30 to buy a book where I'm just sort of like, my things are nutty.
It's as if you've read my book.
So, well, no, yours is like a manual for, you know.
Well, no, just my own experiences. But did you spend time talking with a therapist about the desire to be that honest? And because you
that's what I should have done. That's what I did not do that I should have done.
But you kind of tapped into something just by saying, the moment I share any shame, it's powerless. It doesn't control me.
Yeah.
The moment I speak and share.
You just nailed it.
Well, no, I'm just repeating what you said. So that seems like something
I nailed it.
Yeah, you did.
Thank you for reminding me.
But is that something that you discovered in therapy? Because that's unbelievably zen and Gary Shandling.
Oh God, that's the biggest compliment
Well, sure.
I've ever gotten.
It's the only one I can come up with. I'm sure there's actual Buddhists who were not in show business that might have affected a great many people. I've just got Gary Shandling.
Gary Shandling is I love him so much. You know, it's interesting. I started learning that through, trying to think about a way to say it that's interesting, and I can't, so I'm going to do the uninteresting. That's sort of the theory of how 12-step programs work, and I'm in 12-step programs. So that was sort of where I kind of learned the idea of like, oh, if you just tell your secrets, they stop controlling you, and if you just tell people how you feel like a piece of shit, all of a sudden you feel like less of a piece of shit. It's like this weird, it's like a magic trick, or it's a parlor trick, or something.
Well, but you are disarming.
And it helps the other person. It's actually deeply codependent, because when you admit a flaw about yourself, people feel permission to be flawed as well. It's like this cool thing. Yeah, she's totally, like it's just kind of.
Somebody gets it.
There's this like all these social constructs that we have, like this idea of perfection and being together. It's so boring. And like,
overrated,
and
quite
overrated.
Frankly.
And like, who wants to talk to that person? And I just realized as soon as I started, had permission to talk about my flaws and my weaknesses, and I'm going to put them in air quotes, people listening, you can't see them, inconsistencies and defects and mistakes, like people like it. Like, you know, they feel more connected to you. They feel liberated.
One of us, yeah.
Yeah, and this sort of I think it's also like I just got sick of performing when I wasn't performing. The idea of like, I'm together and I like have the answers. Like, no, I don't. And that's just such a better way to live, I found. And I just hadn't found anything that, and comedy was the only thing that gave me that feeling before I was a comedian. It's a bunch of people going up talking about all their mistakes. That's what comedy is. Yeah,
so it's a wonder at, it's on the internet, so I'm just going to say it.
22.
At such a ridiculously young age, you have accomplished so much as a writer and creative person who seems to spend a goodly amount of time on the path of how do I get out of my own way, when in fact you have on the world stage to great success. So at some point when you first started,
swimming?
Yep, with two hands. Here's a better way perhaps to get to my point. When you showed up at show business.
The Scientology Center.
Yeah. It's it seems to me the misogynistic show business, when you arrived, untethered at the time, would want.
Putting it kindly.
would want the pretty girl to fit this mold, and the pretty girl who's incredibly empowering, smart, and funny to most tiny-dicked executives becomes very threatening and flies in the face of them wanting to give you any sort of power or any sort of opportunity.
What if I just started crying?
Well, I'm old, so I've observed a great many things, and part of this movement that's going on is making me wonder about that. Hello. About when you do show up with your own ideas.
Yeah.
So rather than having you have to sort of walk me or us through the various steps, was there a moment where you felt like, I'm going to be okay. This is going to be okay. This project, this thing I'm trying to move forward.
I have such a hard time receiving compliments that I'm interlocking
You're
my
locking
body.
up. You're locking up.
I literally went from like pulling at my jeans. They were not ripped before we came out here. I've like completely ripped them.
Well, did it make you feel better if I said, I didn't mean any of this was
thank
of
you,
quality.
But
I just meant
receiving compliments is so hard for me, and I'm like sorry about this.
It's okay. It's not a visual medium. By the way, didn't say any of it was worth a damn. I just said you succeeded.
Yeah,
Let's be clear. I didn't say I liked it.
Thank you. I
didn't say I could possibly watch it.
Not a fan.
I just meant.
I feel so much better.
Exactly.
Oh God.
That's not fucked up at all.
God, I feel safe now. If someone disapproves of me, I really feel better.
Well, here's something else that'll make you feel maybe better.
Yeah.
One of my own issues that I can't seem to evolve through because it's so pedestrian is how easily I am annoyed and unnerved by someone succeeding beyond their talent in a business that allows that to happen on a minute-by-minute basis.
That's so interesting. Because that didn't bother me till recently.
Oh.
It didn't bother me till what's that?
It's not going to get better.
Well, it must be getting, because there used to be a time where you had to be wildly talented to be famous.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have to just be wildly shameless.
Yes.
To be famous.
Yes.
And it's almost like the talented people who have a capacity for shame are disappearing.
Right.
And the untalented people who have no capacity for shame are shining
brighter
than ever.
I got here just after, September of 82?
Yeah.
Okay, so a year later, September of 83.
Yeah.
As you were celebrating your first birthday, I arrived in Los Angeles and started auditioning. And in order to get through that rejection, I kept saying to myself that there's no logic or fairness in this business.
No.
It's just, and the mantra was, Chachi's a millionaire. So I imagined this 12-year-old Scott Baio walking onto the set of an already successful show, Happy Days. He was just cast, right, after the fact. And then was on this 7 or 8, 9, however many year run.
Yeah.
No rhyme, no reason, no fairness. Just a kid walked in and right?
Yeah.
So I kept sort of saying, here's a harmless example.
Yeah.
He didn't do anything wrong yet.
Yeah.
He was just a sweet 12-year-old, or however old he was. And then, so 35 years later, you would think I would, just self-aware, I would be evolved through this issue.
Yeah.
So, it's easy for me to be intrigued and interested and curious about someone who was allowed to succeed with actual talent, I guess is my point.
Me?
Yeah. So you don't get to keep doing it. That's one of the weird things. I mean, people fail upwards in the executive side, but it's very difficult to fail upwards as a piece of talent.
It's interesting. Yeah, I feel like, and maybe it's because I started working or sort of living my dreams or whatever,
Young.
Right when Twitter started.
Oh.
So there was no, I made it. You don't get to feel that with Twitter because you just have a litany of insults at all times,
waiting
for you.
Yeah.
Waiting for you. So I never got to succeed and feel the delusion that people
Gave a shit?
Yes, or that there wasn't any kind of negative feedback or any kind of
You're right. It was very innocent more than 10 years ago. You were allowed to shout in the public square, "Hey, look at me!" Didn't have people say?
Success just became more people yelling at you.
Yes.
Yes. And it was weird because I remember thinking the only time I've ever felt like I was super successful was before I made it, when I was just able to do an hour of stand-up and kill for an hour.
Right.
And I was like, I made it.
That's
and
everything.
And then I got TV shows, and I was like, I'm a failure. because of all the feedback that you get from the internet. So I think there's this weird time where
you don't know you suck to get your first review. Good point.
And then here's the irony. And then there's this irony that all the people who are online being fucking messes are getting rosé all day or whatever the fuck is happening online. People are going, you're the best, you're the greatest, you're amazing. And people don't say that to people who are actually talented. They go like, you're not as good as you think, you're fucking da-da-da.
Yeah.
So it's like the people that shouldn't be doing it are getting positive reinforcement, and the people that should be are getting negative reinforcement. So it's this very bizarre time.
Yes, yes, and which suggests the only cure is to ignore.
Right.
But that's impossible.
But that's good luck with that. Godspeed.
Yeah. Yes, I think it was even the Dalai Lama who said, "Yeah, don't worry, you can't do that."
You can't do that, yeah, because our brain is wired to survive, and any kind of negative feedback our brain is focused on because 2,000 years ago, that meant this person can kill me because we didn't have alarm systems and doors and shit, So we are really wired to focus on negative things.
Approaching danger.
Yes, correct.
Right.
Yeah, which is kind of interesting. It's just like a pretty wild time.
So, in that landscape.
Yeah. It's also a comedian thing. Yeah. It's like if there's 5 people laughing and one person's not laughing, that's the only person I care about.
Yeah.
And that's the internet.
Yeah. So people listening and here at the theater, one of the oldest jokes is a comedian after a show gets a compliment and says, "Which show did you see?" has such an inability.
That's so great.
To accept the compliment, but also
Were you the 7:30
instantly.
show? 7:30 Sunday?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That wasn't a great crowd. Yeah. Every time I have someone, I had a friend see me for the first time.
Yeah.
Known each other a long time.
Yeah.
And it was just not a great crowd.
Yeah.
No reason to explain why.
Yeah.
It was just not a great response, I'll say.
Yeah.
That's the thing about a crowd, people listening in here at the theater. They've never rehearsed together.
That's right.
They've never been together.
Never thought of
ever.
that.
Yeah, there's no reunions for crowds.
Yeah.
Right? I would like to think there is. I've earned it.
That is so...
Get back together. You'll get one person who gets everything. You go, you need to go on the road with me.
We need a reboot with that crowd.
So sometimes an audience gets together and the vibe, the chemistry, it's just not working.
Wow.
And the slightest little things can set them off. As a group, they will act as one.
Yes.
And so it was one of those nights where I got off stage and I went, I had fun on stage because I had friends there to see me, and I'll be damned if I'm not going to have fun in front of them. And then he came up and said, that was astonishing. And the more the compliments came, the more I tried to say, it's not a great crowd. If you thought that was good, it's really what I'm saying.
My brain, and maybe it's because I have spent so much of my life lying to people that I assume everybody lies to me. Ooh. It's like it's like when you see a baby that's not the cutest baby, you're like, your baby, you overcompensate, right? So it's like I just spent so much of my life codependently, like being like, oh my God, you look amazing, like doing that shit, which I was like conditioned to do by my family, is that you just try to be everyone's best friend and you can't ever tell anyone the truth. Yes. And so I guess I just assume the better someone tells me I am, the more I'm like, so I was awful.
Yeah.
Like I was the worst, like my brain just can't receive it.
Yeah, and by the way, either could be true.
Yeah.
From a friend or an agent or whomever.
Well, agents, you're like, I pay you. Friends, you're like, what are you going to say? It wasn't good, which is why I spend so much time with comedians. Because comedians
cut through it.
Yeah, and I think this is maybe part of the reason that, a lot of comedians who maybe are successful, whatever that means to you, don't feel it. Because when your friends are comics, they always keep you very humble.
Right.
And they don't let you get your
Do you find yourself gravitating towards someone to date or a mate because they too aren't impressed?
I used to exclusively date unavailable people who I had to chase, and this is true, and people I had to work really hard to get their attention. And so I felt like I had to audition on a daily basis. Like you couldn't stay clean on the shower you took yesterday, like today, and so that, because I was used to doing that. It recreated my childhood circumstances when I was a kid. Every day I had to get my parents' attention. So that was familiar and comfortable to me. Like if someone was just there, I was like, what are you doing? Why are you in my house? Like it was just like
right.
Like it was just weird and I felt smothered and bored.
Right.
I had like an adrenaline addiction thing.
But yeah, so my better half, who's often on this show, and the head writer, is just gifted
Yeah.
at leveling most situations with either honesty or being unimpressed by by whatever this thing that is.
Yeah, you're
that
with
happened.
your heckler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And in fact, she's here also, and I'm talking about her. She becomes known as, well, that's how we know she loves you, because she gave you shit.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct. Because yes, agree.
So it's the same thing with comics. I think we tend to hang out with those people.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like you can, with a comic, like you can go on stage and kill for half an hour and you come off stage and you see a comedian backstage and you're like, that thing you did isn't that kind of similar to the thing this person does? And you're like, that's your, okay. Like I come off stage and you're, the one thing that made you like, you know.
You're still doing the Columbo,
you still doing
huh?
that? You're still doing the thing about the thing? And you're like, all right.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, felt good out there.
Comics, I mean,
Yeah.
I am obsessed with backhanded compliments you get when you come off stage and the way that comedians have the ability to just fucking stab you in the heart the second. My favorite one is you go on stage, you're killing, you come off stage, and I just go, people do this. A comic did this to me once, and he just goes, I felt like I was doing very well. Came off stage, he just goes, weird crowd.
Oh.
And you're like, what? And then you doubt all your percent. You're like, oh
man.
But the only thing worse than weird crowd is you go out and kill, and someone's like, great crowd. And you're like, it was me. Like,
yes.
The crowd is not, they don't just laugh at nothing.
Yes.
You know, so
that
it.
is also a stab in the heart.
Great
and
crowd.
A passive aggressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a great crowd.
Great
Fuck
crowd.
you. Fuck
like,
you.
How about great jokes? It's
Yeah.
just, there's not a lot you can say to a comedian when they come off stage.
It's funny because I was just talking about how weird a crowd can be and how they can make or break the way you feel when you come off stage. And yet, when someone gives them credit for your great set, fuck you.
It's like, but if it's a weird crowd, if you weren't doing well and someone said weird crowd, it's like, oh yeah, fair enough, it was weird. But if you're killing and someone's like weird crowd, you're like, don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't make me doubt my perception.
Yeah.
You know.
Let's now talk about the relaunch of Roseanne.
Yeah.
A lot of people unbelievably
Really?
excited. Oh, yes.
Really? That's cool.
Well, there must be some marketing people who have already made it clear this is a great fucking plan. No?
Yeah, I mean,
But you can't trust them.
There's so few shows that are like have been woven into the fabric of our hearts.
Yes.
Like Roseanne has.
Yeah.
You know, there's a couple of them, and this is one of them. And I think one of the things that I loved about the show, still love about the show, is that it was really, really funny, but also had a lot of emotion.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing the episode where DJ wouldn't kiss the black girl at the school play as a kid, and that's like the first time I was like, whoa, like a sitcom is talking about racism? Like it was just...
In what year? Yeah.
And then Jackie, the domestic violence episode when Fisher hit her on a sitcom. Like no one did that, you know? So it just is a very special sort of
How did
legacy.
The conversation begin?
You know, I had worked with someone who was one of the original producers, and I would always ask him questions, and like I would pitch him like, if Roseanne was on today, this would be the story. Like I was very into the idea always, and I loved the show. I talked about it in my book. It's by the book, Amazon, and that felt like a plug, and I'm embarrassed. But I had talked to him about it, but it wasn't my idea. I just was always, you know, so I think I was in the back of his head. And then Sarah Gilbert does the show The Talk, and she had John Goodman on. And she asked him, would you ever do a reunion? And he's like, hell yeah. And she was like...
On the air?
On the air.
Whoa.
And he was like, of course I would. And she was like, what? Like, I think she just assumed he never... And then she kind of started calling everybody. And then I got a phone call about it. And I was working on like a bunch of things, and I wasn't available for like a year. And when someone called and was like, Roseanne's coming back, would you want to be a part of it? And I instantly pitched like... Because it was after Trump won. And it was like, oh, this working class that everybody forgot existed and that we were calling deplorables and that we were ignoring, they just changed the course of history forever.
Right.
And my instinct was, and I didn't know that Roseanne was going to be the thing that, the way it materialized, but my instinct was, we have to talk to these people.
Yeah.
We have to stop making fun of them.
Yes.
We have to stop disparaging them and ignoring their circumstances. And
we need to know why they're so upset.
Yes, and a lot of people, yes. And, you know, this Hollywood elitist shit that we all forget we're even in is a problem. And we have to sort of like figure out what's actually going on in this country instead of just representing California and New York. And I didn't know how I was going to do it. I actually was going to move to Texas. I was like, I need to move to a red state and vote there. Like, maybe that's what we're going to do. You know, like
right.
I didn't know. And then when Tom Warner called me and said, I think Roseanne's coming back, I just started pitching ideas. And he's like, do you want to do it? And I was like, I'm not available. And he's like, well, can you do it? And I was like, yeah. And I just canceled everything to do it. Because I also wanted to become a better writer, and I wanted to figure out how to make a sitcom good, because they get real bad real fast. And Roseanne was always a very good sitcom. And it's an alchemy, you know, more than anyone. There's 9,000. Yeah. Lightning has to strike so many times for it to be good. And I really wanted to learn how to make one that felt more like a play than like a corny, you know,
it's
bullshit.
It's one of the problems that sitcoms face as a design.
Yeah.
Is that there's a sense of falseness.
The artifice. There's no roof on the set.
Right. And the audience at home, it either you know too much and it's seeping in. I can't watch a multi-camera show. A new one. I can't.
But there's also
even when I was on one.
Yeah. Is it the noise or is it the visual? Is it the laughs? A lot of people get annoyed by the studio audience.
It is that, but it's also there's just through the writing. There's just a false representation of the way people talk.
Nobody talks in jokes.
Right, and that was the thing about Roseanne for certain, that no one talked in jokes. They said funny things.
Yes, but they were inherently funny, character-driven jokes instead of a bunch of people saying written jokes that some Harvard Lampoon guy came up with. They were just like, why is everyone so quick?
Right.
Like, it's just like everyone's a roast joke. Like, everyone's Don Rickles in every one of these shows.
Yeah.
Like, why does all these people should be professional comedians?
Yeah. Wait, another 7-year-old that says really snarky shit?
This 7-year-old is fucking Red Buttons. Like, what's happening?
I love that all your references.
Are they?
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Jeff Ross.
That's Jamie to a T. Yeah.
But I just totally.
Red buttons. What are you even? What's the matter with you?
Hashtag red buttons.
We
get
just
it trending.
lost 98% of people who are listening.
Or
can I tell you red buttons?
Just is about to get Googled 12 times.
Can I? No, of course. Can I tell you a funny red button story?
Please.
At Walter Matthau's memorial service, it's at the Directors Guild, and there are many, many, many steps leading up to a stage, and then the audience. Walter's son Charlie was the master of ceremonies, and he would basically have one extraordinarily famous person after another come up and speak about Walter. And you know, it's Neil Simon and it's Jack Lemmon and it's all these people. Wow. And then and Charlie comes out after 7 of those and says, our next speaker, you know, I had to kind of chase a lot of people down and ask them to do this. And of course, if they had time, they would love to speak about my dad. And in this case of our next speaker, he contacted me, and it really meant the world to me that he reached out and said, can I say a few words about your pop? And please welcome Red Buttons. And he walks up, there's, I swear to you, 38 steps he has to walk up to that. And halfway up, he turns back to the seated audience and says, sometimes you got to go after the work. Come on.
Killed?
Oh, of course.
Killed.
Couldn't believe it, because this wonderfully sweet thing that Charlie just shared, how touched he was that someone reached out, was turned into an insecure comedian who said, I don't want anyone to think I would, you know? I mean, it was beautiful.
That is so...
Yeah. He owned it and made it hilarious in a heartbeat.
There was and this is a totally different story, but it just different thematically even, but it made me think about, because as I was thinking about those stairs, I was like a comedian walking up 36 stairs. You're looking, there's a comedy club in Detroit called the Magic Castle.
Sure.
And there's a door on the back of the stage, and you have to turn your back to the audience. And because stand-up is basically like a gang assassination, and you guys are just deciding not to kill us, the idea of turning your back to the audience is very scary.
Yeah.
It is.
It's like sitting with the restaurant with the window to the sidewalk.
It's insane. It's an act of violence.
Yes.
To turn around, it just makes you so vulnerable. But you know that the reason people are scared of public speaking, this is fascinating. In tribal times, 2,000 years ago, if you were facing a group of people, that means that you were on trial.
Whoa.
And they were deciding if they were going to basically stone you to, like in our brain, the idea of like a bunch of eyeballs looking at you is a very tenuous, your amygdala gets activated.
Yes, and to that point, the Coliseum, of course, this.
Yes.
Right, the room, and I think that was the birth of the success of reality television because people are at home doing this.
Fascinating.
So I'll keep going.
But doing this, but also loving
Sorry,
it, they're going like,
Podcasts, I was putting my thumb down. What an idiot.
You have on YouTube that
So you
little
just
thumb
do
down.
this. People, guys, what's happening?
But when the idea of going, I would like back out and like get out to get, the idea of just turning around to open the door was too scary for me.
So the idea of going up 38 steps.
The idea of not controlling why they laugh is terrifying. But this actual story I was telling was I saw one time Bill Burr was on Conan, and it's when I think when he had the Tonight Show, he had the new stage. It was like the first time a comic had done that stage. And the curtain where he walked out was just really far from the microphone.
Yes.
Have you ever seen? You should go. He starts walking, and the music starts to stop, and he realizes that he's like 10 feet, and he starts running. Yes. The idea of just being silent.
You got to beat the audience applaud dying down or the band playing.
Because that is like they're gonna kill him if I don't get in charge
yes.
right now. And he literally runs up into the microphone. And he just goes, I didn't think I was going to make it. That's what he said.
Right.
And I just thought that was such a wonderful moment.
There's an unspoken agreement with the audience, which is when you finally calm down, I will begin speaking.
Yes.
And if they've calmed down and then you're not at the mic yet.
You're breaking your end of the bargain
That's
here.
Right. Yeah.
And they're like, well, I guess we have to take control.
Oh, this is uncomfortable.
Yes. And there's this, the audience, I think, has no idea how much power they have. We know. But I don't think they know.
Don't tell.
But yeah, I know, don't tell them. But then once they realize it, it gets very dicey. And it's like Bill knew, like I have 3 seconds until they realize they have the power.
Oh wow, yeah. And he ran.
Yeah.
So then the idea is hatched for Roseanne, and then you make yourself available.
Yeah.
And all the cast agrees to come back. The network is ecstatic, I'm assuming.
I think so.
Sure.
I think so.
And then.
I mean, she voted for Trump in real life, so they're half ecstatic.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's a half joke, but like, I think that's, the reason that makes it kind of, I was about to say magical, and I realized that was not the word I wanted to use.
No.
Authentic. And interesting and loud and noisy and, I was going to say dark, and that might be the right word, but it's also, I think, makes everyone a little nervous, too.
Yes. Yes, so, but that is part of the alchemy.
It is.
Of that
That's
show,
the right word.
Is that everyone's a little nervous.
Yes.
Once I imagine they all get past the reunion element.
Yeah.
Which is, I can't believe we're doing this again. This is fantastic.
Surreal.
And we get into the actual workings. Yeah. So you're co-running the show?
Yes.
Okay.
Bruce Helford as well.
Love Bruce.
Oh, good.
Love
Bruce did the original and, every show ever. And a
Drew
lot of the
Carey.
original. He did Drew Carey.
Right.
It's a lot of the original Roseanne writers, which is super cool.
I'm working with one of them.
Tell me.
Amy Sherman Palladino.
Oh, fantastic. Of course. I thought you meant one of the ones that was on this one. Amy Sherman Palladino was,
the pedigree of writers that came out of that. That also speaks to the unbelievable success.
Yes.
Chuck Lorre, who now owns television.
Yes, but Amy was, it's funny because we talk about her in the room a lot, because we often talk about, the writers that came out of the room, and she had such a specific voice so early that she would turn in, these like super long scripts with these really complicated, like Gilmore Girls dialogue, and I just thought that was so cool that she was like doing her own thing and had found her voice even then.
Yeah. So you helped put together the new writers, the new group?
I helped put together the new writers and the new stories, and I was kind of just there to, I really tried to be in the room as like a fan of the show as well. Like the idea of like, as a fan, I would not want to see that. It was sort of my like self-righteous.
Or the Roseanne wouldn't say that.
There's that.
Right.
There's that, and
or any one of them.
Right, and just kind of the like, as a fan of the show, I was very much ironically do we need a joke there? Like why can't we just let it breathe and let's make it look exactly like the original physically, lighting wise, because it was shot on film before. And now it's on high def.
Crazy.
Which anybody who's in the pixel world, I don't even know what to call it, knows that that's really hard to match. Did you watch Roseanne?
I watched it, of course.
You've seen it.
And now it plays in the house all the time because the other person in the house is obsessed with it.
What color was the wall of the living room, Kevin?
Just going to say brown.
Yep. Am I allowed to ask them?
The same question?
Yeah. I literally am trying to do a focus group to see if anyone remembers the color of the wall. You say brown.
Sure.
I thought yellowy beige, like a sepia yellow? Yellowy beige? Wood panel?
Interesting.
It is celadon green.
No, that's not possible.
Not possible.
No.
Not possible, which is an amazing, like, our memories are so subjective. This is kind of my new obsession, the TED Talks, Moran Surf. Look it up. We create things, our memories are subjective. And I was sure that wall was beige. And it was like a lime green. And so we had to go and make sure it was the exact same lime green. They don't fucking make it anymore because no one's ever wanted it before or since.
No.
It's not available. Getting the couch was a whole rigmarole. The couch, I think I'm allowed to say this. I'm going to get sued. It's fine. The original couch, collector bought it. He wouldn't let us have it.
Sure.
It was crazy. We couldn't get the couch back. They had to make a new one. It was like matching everything was really actually very hard.
Just based on the number of seasons.
Yeah.
Equaling number of farts, I would say rebuild the couch.
The couch, it was interesting. We had a very big debate about what would have been changed and what would stay the same.
Right.
And I felt very strongly we can update the appliances, we can get a new refrigerator, we can get some new pictures. There's grandkids. Darlene has kids now. But if I see a different couch, there will be a riot in the street as a fan of the show.
Right.
And the wallpaper in the kitchen. I didn't want them to change. And I fought very hard. We had to recreate it because they don't make it anymore. There was a couple things that we were allowed to, that we changed that it's like kind of a fun thing to go through and look at what's different.
Sure.
Because everything was very...
People are going to do it.
Meticulous. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because there were some things that I was like, yeah, you're just going to have to buy the fact that they've had this couch for 30 years.
Right. And what can you tell us about where we pick up?
I think I can tell a lot. I think a lot of it's kind of out there.
Right.
And ABC is so fucking over me at this point. I've spoiled everything. I've released everything by accident. Johnny Galecki came to do an episode, and I Instagrammed it, and they got so pissed. It was like they were like, because there's strategies for releasing stuff now. So I keep fucking up. So why stop now? We pick back up, and they are, they're the Connors, and in the Trump era, and they don't have health insurance, and she has health problems, and they can't address them, and Becky is a waitress at a Mexican restaurant, because Lanford is now primarily Mexican, which is what the town really would be. And Darlene has 2 kids with David. David is out of the picture. One of the kids he's a 9-year-old boy who wears a dress. And they're all trying to make sense of that, and what does that mean? And DJ married the girl that he wouldn't kiss at the school play, the black girl he wouldn't kiss. So they got married, and they have a kid. It's just kind of magical. And Becky has been released. Becky is trying to become a surrogate for a wealthy family, because that's a lot of what girls do. If you're poor, that's kind of your lottery ticket, is like, I'm gonna give my womb away to a rich person. I had a lot of friends who were getting surrogates, and I got super fascinated with who's the kind of person who becomes a surrogate.
Yeah.
And I realized it was a lot of girls that didn't have any money and didn't have any options. And I found that super heartbreaking, that rich people are kind of it's like fucking Handmaid's Tale shit, like just using these.
Well, the difference, of course, Handmaid's Tale, they didn't have a choice.
Correct.
So there's something of slightly enterprising about it also.
Yes, but
it's like,
if you're poor and you can make 80 grand, like, is it a choice? I mean, of course it's an actual choice, but it's also like, what choice do I have?
So it's the same as I dealt drugs in the street.
It's better than being a stripper or hooker or whatever, not to say that all surrogates are, don't have other options, but it just was super fascinating to me, the idea of renting out your body for a year. It's just wild to an affluent family, and really wanted to get sort of a liberal elite person in there. So Sarah Chalk is playing the woman who is trying to get Becky to be the surrogate.
She's hilarious.
That's a nice meta thing,
sure.
And it's just really about the circumstances that led to Trump, frankly, in a lot of ways.
And so you've shot
9.
Right.
I did 9.
And that's...
And I mean, it was so it should just geek out. I mean, John Goodman And Laurie Metcalf, I mean, it was just like, half was just like, it was actually a problem because John Goodman I'm such a big fan of John Goodman that I was so awkward around him. And I would the only things I would do around him are lie and flirt because I would lie to him all the time. I did a whole thing on some talk show about it because he would make me so nervous that.
The average lie would sound like?
I did this on a talk show and I'm so afraid that you saw it, but this story. But
I didn't.
Okay, good. I did a book tour, Amazon. I did a book tour, and I was out of town for like a couple weeks that we were shooting, and I would come back, and he asked me, he was like, "How was your weekend?" And he's very focused. He's a real actor, right?
He's about the work.
He's got his thing, and he's got his sides, and and one day he talked to me, and it was like a high school, like, your crush talks to you and you just I carried a watermelon, like Dirty Dancing moment, where you just say the stupidest thing. And so I just like started shaking, and he was like, "Where were you on your tour this weekend?" And I was like, "Oh, I was in Cincinnati and New York and St. Louis and Florida." And he was like, "Oh, you were in St. Louis? That's where I'm from." And in that moment, I realized I had not been to St. Louis. I was just listing cities because I was going to St. Louis the next week, but
you were lying when you said every city.
I panicked.
Sure,
I panicked.
It's okay.
And
you know the names of cities.
Literally, I didn't realize the conversation was going to get further than that. And then
that he would fact check in the middle of it.
He kept following up. It was like, God, can this conversation end? We've said 2 sentences. What more is there? And then he said, where did you perform? In St. Louis. And I hadn't been there. So I literally just went, the Pantheon?
Oh, no, you didn't.
It sounds like a theater. It sounds
you could have just said the performing at the Center for the Performing Arts. There's one of those in every town.
That would have been something that a sane person would have come up. But I was like, the theaters are always called like the Paramount or like, and and he was like, the Pantheon, where's that? And
yeah. No, you're fine.
My ship, the window closed on saying I've made a mistake. So I leaned into this shit so hard. I was like, if he listens to this podcast, I'm going to kill myself. And he was like, "Oh, is that downtown?" I was like, "Yeah, it's downtown." And he's like, "Oh, I got to check that out." And then he wouldn't stop asking me questions about St. Louis. He's like, "Where'd you stay?" And I was like, "Fuck, the DoubleTree." And he's like, "There's a DoubleTree in St. Louis now?"
There
I'm like,
has
in
to
one
be.
city, there's no DoubleTree. So it's like, not only am I lying to him, I'm like making him feel bad. I'm like making him feel old, and like he's out of touch. He's like, "Oh, there's a DoubleTree and a Parthenon." God, and I was like, I'm like hurting this man's feelings.
Yeah.
And so it was just awful.
I feel like it'd be healing for both of you if, in fact, I sent him just this clip,
like a Vimeo clip.
Yeah, just this.
Look, I mean, you will find my body in the La Brea tar pits.
No, I think he would completely understand and actually laugh really hard.
Oh God, the irony is he's gonna be like, "Who's Whitney Cummings?"
Oh no.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So that was embarrassing. I often embarrassed myself around him. But I mean, and then Laurie Metcalf is like, I couldn't stop. I actually, it's funny, when I am intimidated by someone, I come off like I don't give a shit about them.
I noticed that.
Do you know? But like, because I just would ignore her entirely.
Wow.
Yeah. Because I was so...
That's not helpful.
It's not helpful. That's what my therapist says.
Well,
I always say, it's not healthy that I do that. And she's like, don't say healthy, say helpful. Like,
yeah,
that's not helpful.
All Jews say that, if I may.
Is that what that is?
Not to undermine her genius.
Yeah, right. She's probably a Jewish. I don't know. I can't remember her last name, but probably. And so she would, anytime she would be like, how are you? And I'd be like, good. Like, bitchy, because I just would panic because I didn't want to, I just can't talk to her. I get too nervous. And she's like Steppenwolf hoodie, and, she's so
and
on
yet,
it. And I never knew when she was working, because she would kind of walk around the kitchen, and she's Laurie Metcalf. She's being brilliant.
Right.
And then the one time I did talk to her, it made me feel so bad about myself, because she goes, she's so genius in the show, it's shocking. And a multicam, there's an audience, and it's jokes, and she's just doing all this brilliant stuff, and you can write anything for her. You can write, you're like, as a placeholder, and she'll make a genius, and you're like, well, we can't cut it now. She made it so good. Where you're changing stories just to accommodate one thing she said because it's so well done. And I was like, hi, how are you? Like, I don't know what I said. I was like, it's such a pleasure to whatever. And she goes, God, it's just so hard. I feel like I can't do my best work. I don't have a lot of time with the script. And I was just like, this isn't even your best work. I mean, this is like her on I forgot, because a multicam, you have a day to work on something before you shoot it, you know? So I was like, this is her like phoning it in.
Right.
You know, it's like, you're just like, oh God, I'm just gonna end it. But that was magical.
How long ago, are you still posting? Are you?
We're done.
Done.
It airs on March 27th, I think.
Right.
Like in
I knew it was coming up.
Yeah. It's gonna piss some people. I mean, it's gonna piss, I think, everybody off for different reasons, and it's gonna make everyone laugh for different reasons. It's kind of everything. It's like, you know, there's some things that are. It's like it's gonna be kind of like going home to all your relatives that you love but drive you crazy in a way. But it's still like a.
That sounds like you delivered on the promise.
I hope so. That's a critic did say that. Said it delivers on its promise, which I thought was a big compliment.
Hold on to that one.
I like that. I'm gonna try to receive that. But. I think people are having a really hard time divorcing her real life politics with Roseanne Connor.
I may have just thought of something good.
Give it a pitch for the show?
Nope. Holding on to it delivered on its promise versus it delivered on expectations. Nice, perfectly timed.
Someone just puke? That was so brilliant. Timed. Someone was just like, bleh.
I can't believe my agent had that good of a meal before the taping that he held a belch for 90 minutes. And then launched the Kentucky Derby. That was extraordinary.
Wait, I need to know.
So getting back to my brilliant fucking point.
Synonyms or hold on. What is, hold on.
Delivered on the promise.
That's such a different thing.
Instead of delivering on expectations. Because like you pointed out, it will delight and confuse and annoy everyone for different reasons. So those are the expectations.
Yeah.
Whereas the promise is make me feel like I'm watching Roseanne again.
Did you notice that I just spilled all over myself while
Not
you're saying
till you said it.
Literally saying the most profound thing, and I missed my mouth by a good inch.
So I've got the belch, and then I've got the dribble cup.
I'm drowning myself in pineapple juice.
We'll take them.
That is a wonderful.
It just kind of popped in there, and I thought I should speak it because I would like to achieve that myself, to get to a place where if you can deliver on the promise, which is you're delivering on the premise, right?
Yeah.
And then you just got to let it go, and then people are going to hate it and love it for their own fucking reasons and agenda and all that stuff.
And I also think that it's the kind of, which I think that levity, and I'm a comic, so of course this is going to be my point of view, but I think levity could be the healing thing with all of this.
Yeah, just be funny.
Just be funny
right.
about all of these very unfunny topics. And
right.
I think that what it is even if you disagree with what's happening, you'll still be laughing.
To me, that's delivering on the promise.
That's the thing.
It's a
I
sitcom.
don't even agree with what you're saying, but it's making me laugh.
Right.
And I like you. And like I understand why you feel that way.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I just flew back from New York and John Voight was on the plane, and I was very enamored by his body of work and thinking about him.
His body.
Yeah.
What if you just said I'm enamored by his body?
Well, it was difficult to look at Dustin Hoffman. I guess you're right. In fact, he had to yell at a car, "I'm walking here," because the driver just saw John Voight.
And you know John Voight, though?
No, I don't think so. I think we kind of...
Can I make this a podcast where I'm interviewing you very quickly?
There's a portion called Ask Kevin.
Oh, good. That's right.
Let's make that this.
When celebrities see each other...
Do they just...
Are you like, hey, but like, because you guys...
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, it's a club that, even if you don't know each other, you know each other.
I guess.
When I first moved to Los Angeles, I went to Crunch Fitness. Don't be jealous. On Sunset. I was here for like a week, and I was on the elliptical train. I didn't even pay the membership. I would sneak in the
Sunset and Crescent Heights.
Sunset and Crescent Heights, the Virgin Megastore, and I would be on the elliptical machine. And Jodie Foster was on the elliptical machine in front of me.
She certainly was.
Yes, she was. You remember? And then Jeff Goldblum came in.
Oh no.
Yeah, I know. Plot twist. Jeff Goldblum came in, and he got on the elliptical next door, and I was like, this is going to be good. I'm going to watch two celebrities just yak it up and be like, remember the odds? Like, didn't speak.
Didn't acknowledge each other?
Didn't even, nothing.
Come on.
Nothing. Well, Jodie Foster doesn't have what Jeff Goldblum's probably looking for.
I was actually thinking, what year is this?
This must have been...
The point is, Jeff Goldblum...
This must have been 12 years ago.
The Goldblum was definitely checking you out because...
Thank God.
That would be the Goldblum
No,
MO.
he got in front of me. He was in front of me.
I
also think he was wearing jeans, but that's another story. I remember going, like, celebrities just wear jeans to the gym? Like, this is... What a life.
I didn't have time to put on... I don't do Goldblum, but the essence is there.
And they didn't speak, and I thought it was so weird. And I was like, I thought all celebrities just knew each other.
They could also just not really like each other from a previous thing.
Yeah, there's that.
But weird that they would just end up with the only two available.
It was so, blew my mind.
I wish we could go inside what they're both thinking about as they were walking and just spend a little time there next to each other, not speaking.
Yeah.
But, so there is a weird thing when usually it's one of them breaks and says, I'm a fan.
I like the idea of that stalemate, like who's going to say it first?
Sure. And yeah, I mean, my go-to is, you may have seen a couple examples of this backstage when you referenced something I did or had done that was talked about. So my go-to default is, there's Gene Hackman, he has no idea who I am. That's absolutely every time. And when that moment happened, walking up this very exiting, first time I was ever at the Golden Globes, Matthew Perry's date, thank you. Yeah, didn't want to piss off the 3 girls he was dating by inviting one of them, so I went.
I'm gonna sit this one out.
Yep.
But I like what you're doing.
So as I'm so crowded you can barely get out,
yeah.
I find myself step leaving next to Gene Hackman, who is arguably the greatest actor that ever lived. Never gave a false performance. His performance in the Royal Tenenbaums, I will suggest, is a comedy clinic we've not seen in the last 30 years.
Yes.
It's
agreed.
And it's in its own universe.
You can't even explain why it's good.
Nope.
I can't even tell you why it's good.
No.
I don't even know how to...
It's original and surprising every single time he speaks. So anyways, we're step, and I'm waiting. Do I leave him
He's a very
alone?
tall man as well.
Yes, he is, and I am not. And, it's that inner monologue. Do I say something? What am I going to say?
Yeah.
I mean, we're standing 4 inches away. We're just, I have to. Sorry, I just have to say I'm a lifelong fan. Thank you. And I just wanted to leave him alone, right?
Yeah.
And
because he's never heard that before.
Exactly.
Right.
But I just have to.
Yeah, of course.
6 steps later was the time he waited to then say, and I am of yours. And the reason it landed was he also always seemed to me as a person who did not suffer fools and did not give out compliments. Unless, you know what I mean? There was no, I've got to reciprocate to this person because it's the right thing. Nope.
No.
So I actually took it in as...
You can receive that.
Yes, yeah. Or meeting some other famous person. There's some sort of, the show business nod.
Was that is that your biggest crush, talent crush?
Jeff Bridges, also flawless, unmatchable.
Yep.
My dear friend who I started out with in San Francisco, Dana Carvey, I can't think of Jeff Bridges without thinking of Dana's impression, which is just reducing Jeff Bridges to beef stew.
Dana Carvey's been doing stand-up around.
Yeah. Here, he dropped in here. Yes, no, he's He's been doing stand-up, and he kills in a way
that
is the most disarming.
I haven't seen.
But that's the way it was in 1978.
He shakes the building. It's people scream. They're just like, ha! Like they can't. They're not laughing. They're just like, ha! Like they're losing their minds.
Yeah.
They're having seizures.
Yes.
It's so weird. It's like you think you're like a good comedian. You think you know how to make people laugh, and you see him perform, and you're like, do I just pack it up and be a pharmaceutical sales rep?
He is that.
Yeah.
And he has been since I'm...
It was always like that.
Yes. No, he was doing the Church Lady in 1978.
Yeah.
To 17 people in a former disco that decided to be a comedy club in the San Francisco Bay Area. Yeah. And always had that effect on people. And also one of the first comedians, I continue to digress, who could diffuse any situation by just dialing in and talking to one person in the middle of his act.
Wow.
Blue sweater guy, you don't seem to be having fun. What's going on?
Wow.
In the middle of...
I like it because I'm not going to go in with an insult.
No.
And exacerbate it. Like, how are you?
And to this day,
wow.
Watch for blue sweater guy.
Wow.
There's a blue sweater guy seemingly at any time. So, let's just follow that train of thought. When, speaking earlier about finding your own voice, when did you start to feel comfortable where you could have your blue sweater guy, composure on stage and confidence and just being comfortable? I remember one of the first big compliments I was paid in 1978 when I was just doing impressions. The big comedian at the time said, you know, when your material catches up with your stage presence,
wow,
you're going to be a star.
Wow,
you're going to be known. And so I knew I was comfortable on stage because it started so young.
Yep.
So for most performers, it's when do I stop lying on stage? We talked about lying as a way to appear confident.
Yeah.
When do you feel that might have happened? Because
I think I had two.
Mm-hmm.
One was I did a Comedy Central roast of Joan Rivers.
Oh.
And she scared the shit out of me.
Sure.
She's Joan Rivers. Joan Rivers is like, for all your whatever, like she doesn't lie.
No.
From what at least my hippocampus, like she doesn't lie. She goes, whatever, whether it's her act or whether it's her red carpet, I don't like your dress. She just like offending someone isn't really, or giving someone a compliment that they haven't earned, it's just really in her repertoire.
Right.
And so we did the Comedy Central roast, which roasting someone who's your hero is like the weirdest thing.
And you don't know.
I've never met her.
Right. That's the worst.
I literally am like, thank you for all you've done. Now I'm gonna make fun of your plastic surgery. Like it's such a fucked up like thing that we do.
For sure.
Whereas the Friars Club roast, it was all friends making fun of people that knew each other, and they knew it was in jest. And this was like, I'm just insulting my hero for money. Like, okay, I had fucking bills to pay. So. And I did the thing, which was literally insulting her for 8 minutes. She was so incredibly cool about it because in my naive, fucking self-involved, fear-driven mind, I forgot, she's Joan Rivers. She's going to go up and equally crush me.
Decimate.
Like, this will be fine.
Yeah.
Like, the power dynamic will be restored very quickly.
That's right.
When she verbally destroys me in 20 minutes, which happened.
Did she talk about the cheekbones at all?
What I don't.
She had to.
I just froze up because I was like, my cheekbones or her cheekbones or.
Well, hers were implanted, as you pointed out.
Well, that's what's so funny, and I have since made fun of her about it.
Sure.
Since before she passed, of that she talks about how much plastic surgery she had, and the key to a Comedy Central roast working is the person you're roasting is laughing.
Yes.
And enjoying it, and it's permission to be like, oh great, I'm going to keep making fun of you, and she had so much, her face didn't move that much. So you couldn't tell if she was laughing, and everybody kept checking in thinking they were fucking bombing. And she finally just had to go like, I'm having fun. She had to like subtitle her face and be like, we're good. And
somebody write down she had to subtitle her face.
Well, I mean, it was like, that's when we were like, okay, we're good. Because we thought she was pissed. She was like sitting there all angry. And then anyway, so after that, I did my set, and when you've like nobody knows you, doing the Comedy Central roast is great because nobody really makes fun of you because you have nothing to.
They don't know where to go.
There's nowhere to go.
Yeah, that's why I actually went with the cheekbones.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you had some physical attribute that Joan would dial in. Because what does she know?
I mean, like Greg Giraldo did who I love, I feel like I'm only talking about dead people. He had the funniest joke. It was so simple, and he just goes, Whitney Cummings is here for some reason. Like, it was just such a great way to like.
That's pretty great.
Yeah, it's like nobody really knows, or like just not even worth it. And anyway, Joan Rivers afterwards pulled me in, and she said, "You're the real deal." Which was like
the first time she'd seen you.
Not you're amazing.
Nope.
Not some vague compliment.
You're gonna go places, kid.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was just like you're the real deal. And for a comic to say that was it.
That's it.
That was for me. Kept me going for years.
And you were made.
When I'm lost, sometimes I'm still like, well, Joan Rivers thinks I'm the real deal. So I'm probably we'll get through this.
Again, a situation where instinctively she didn't need to say that.
She didn't need to say that. She could have said, like, great job. How are you?
You were funny.
Those jokes were good.
Right.
You know, that's the other thing, is that you have a lot of people, like, I remember people come up to me a lot per your thing and go, like, you're such a good writer after I did stand-up. And I'd be like, well, I'm not what about my, like, it just fucks
my
it.
ability to perform.
Most compliments actually insult you in 9 other ways.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So she just said something that was just like, oh. And then I had a night, the Comedy Store, which you know well, that original room it's gotten like the Comedy Store is like a spot now. Like it's sold out every night.
It's hot again.
New management. Yeah. It's just headliner after headliner. It's crazy. But when I first came up there, it was like nobody. It was like 9 like Germans and like Mitzi Shore in the back, just like. And
the Germans didn't like you.
That's right. That's right. Nobody spoke English. Like it was just like very bizarre place, and you're just always bombing. And I would go up at like 1 a.m. And that was but sometimes I'd go up even later because that was so there would be like 4 people left that were just like homeless or lost.
It was warm.
Yeah, exactly. It was like something terrible would have happened to them if they were there. And I was very into writing jokes. That was my safe place. Like writing jokes, that was my thing. I'd go on stage and I would tell jokes and I would perform jokes in a very, I don't want to say robotic, but just sort of
deliberate.
Deliberate. And I still love jokes, like, that's sort of part of what we do, but I would go on stage and I didn't really deviate from the jokes. That's what I'm saying. It was like, I'm not going to show you my personality.
You weren't allowing yourself a point of view.
I didn't think there was anything interesting about me. I thought the showcase was the jokes.
Be funny, yeah.
Yeah, it was like, people are coming to see well-crafted material. They're not coming to see my idiosyncrasies and whatever. I'm boring, but these jokes are why I'm valuable.
Right.
And I went on, and I would always do good enough. But in that OR, I could never kill because that place is all about confidence. They can see your soul, and if you're hate fucking material, they're like, it's the way that it's lit.
Hate fucking material, also that needs to be.
But the way that Mitzi Shore lit it is very deliberate to make the audience dark, so that they don't feel any pressure to laugh.
Right.
Because the more an audience is lit, the more they have to laugh because they know you can see them.
Sure.
So it's the hardest, notoriously kind of the hardest room. We say like in the original room. Like a laugh in the original room is an applause break anywhere else, right?
Yeah.
And so I always kind of did like okay. And then it's a tricky room for comedians because it's super dark, but then there's all these famous comedians' names and lights. It's like David Letterman, and you're just being reminded of
lit
how
up perfectly.
They're just beautifully lit up, and you just like have these like famous, talented people, and you're just like, I'm never gonna
be as good as that guy.
These people. Why are you
good?
putting all these winners on the walls? It just makes me feel like more of a loser. And I think there's certain moments in your life that kind of you're changed forever. And I was in a relationship when I was like 24, 25, where I was sort of in the throes of my brokenness and my sort of kind of a puppet of all my sort of pain and wiring issues. And I was in a really bad relationship and I got cheated on, which was like, for me, my nightmare. Like that's with the like abandonment shit and the rejection shit and my childhood circumstance, that's like the ultimate wound. And it happened. Like what happens when your worst fear happens?
Sure.
And for whatever reason, that was mine. I mean, I'm sure that's not crazy, but that was it. Like nothing else felt dangerous to me except that. That was the scariest thing. And growing up with a mom who, finding a man was like her stability. So when you lost a man, it was like, catastrophe. So that's how I was conditioned. Now I'm sort of like, if a guy cheats, I'm like, oh, thank God. It's like, it's such a relief. Like the shoe dropped. I don't have to think about it anymore. Like now I get to go like, back to being single, like it's the best. It's like such a way out. And I found out at like, in a really stupid way, but I found out right before I was gonna go on stage at the Comedy Store. I found out at like 11 p.m. and I went and did my set anyway. And I had all my jokes and my whatever, and I was sort of doing my jokes, and I was kind of just bombing for like 4 women that were like at some bachelorette party or something. It was like 1 a.m. And the only other person that was there was like 2 comics, like a door guy and the guy in the booth and the piano player. And I just kind of snapped. And I talked about what was going on. And I started crying.
Sure.
And I started yelling.
Always funny.
And I was like... And now that I look back, I feel like they pity laughed to make sure I didn't kill myself or harm them. And I just started like talking about the situation and telling the truth.
But you made it funny.
And they started laughing.
Yeah.
And I was like, why are you laughing? It's like, it was just like this crazy moment where I realized like, oh, it's not about the jokes.
Nope.
Right? And it was something that people can tell you over and over again, but it's not going to sink in on a cellular level until you actually experience it.
Yeah.
And it gave me a level of trust in myself and a level of respect for the audience. If they don't just want this like pre-written rehearsed shit, like they want to see something special.
Yep.
That no one else has seen.
How are you unique and interesting, and why am I going to care?
And be authentic.
Yeah.
So going up and being like, I'm fine, and here are all my jokes, that was just not true, and they can feel it. And it made me realize, like, oh, people can, like, feel what's going on.
Yeah.
And that changed everything forever. What was the question?
And we're out of time. The question was answered. That's what the question was. About finding, your
the moment that kind of happens. Yeah, and
finding the moment of, okay, I belong. This is what I should be doing. And I think you answered.
I hope so.
Yeah, I mean
we still need those moments over and over again. It's never like you're like, this is it. It's like there's still,
of course not.
Yeah, I still have moments because things always change. It's like I was talking to someone the other day who's sort of successful and he didn't get this thing that he wanted, and it's so weird how you can recreate your less successful life at every stage of success based on there's always going to be people above you, so you can always Like I'm, working on a new special right now. I've done 3 specials, but when you're working on new material, you still feel like an open micer again.
Right.
And you still feel like, oh God, I hope they like this, and what if this doesn't work, and I don't know if I should try this joke, and it's just so weird. And I'm like, you'd think I'd be over that by now, but I don't think that's something that ever goes away.
No, and also, you should never be satisfied, ultimately, creatively. You should, if there is a moment of, well, I did that.
I don't know any great comedian who does that.
You're
done.
Yeah.
You're done.
Okay, well, we do have we do have a couple of last. I'm so glad I made notes.
But it is weird. I was thinking about it, I'm gonna get this wrong. Sorry. Please don't tweet this.
You can't fuck this up. You can't fuck this up.
No, just the idea that Charlize Theron loses jobs to Julia Roberts sometimes.
Yeah.
Everyone, the most successful person you think of fails sometimes, and that's such a weird concept to me.
Yeah, and imagine how more connected an audience would feel to X performer, actress, actor, if they were allowed into this inner sanctum of abject insecurity and self-hatred.
Abject insecurity.
Yeah, the name of my 4th book.
I was going to say. And by the way, sorry if Charlize Theron, if you listen to this, I didn't know that. I don't know that you lose. I just, what I mean.
Jamie just laughed, thinking that more than the 14 people here.
What if John Goodman and Charlize Theron are the two, huge fans of the show? I'm fucked.
Turns out they are our only fans. Yeah. Yeah, I can't believe it took this long for me to say it.
Walked right into this trap.
It feels so good. This is show 346, and I'm finally honest.
Burning bridges.
We just have those insanely famous fans. and anyone listening who aren't those 2 people, you're done. Okay, so I can't thank you enough. We've ripped through the better part of almost 2 hours.
Wow.
I know. It felt like we were just talking, and there were some witnesses. So I hope you have that takeaway as well. We're both a little preoccupied beforehand, like how do we get out of our performer ego thoughts, and I think we got there.
Yeah,
I know we got there.
I think we did.
We did ask Kevin, so this is the pop quiz, between 5 and 15 points possible for each of the 3 questions, and once the final score is tabulated, it will be posted on our website along with the current standing among the top 100. Are you ready? Question number 1.
When you're least fresh, now I have to fucking take a quiz.
Question number 1, Dave Koechner or Rob Riggle?
Oh, man!
But you see how pointless the quiz is.
I know, but nothing's pointless.
Okay.
For sex?
Sure.
Or just anything. See, my brain is like, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings.
What if they
listen to this podcast with Charlize and
I love
John?
the assumption that anyone listens.
Rob Riggle.
Correct.
Oh.
See? It's actually kind of... Yes, that's right. It goes back to the thing I said right before we started. You cannot fuck this up. Question number 2, Carl Weathers or the weather in Carlsbad?
The weather in Carlsbad.
Of course. Last question, Keith? Thank you. Oh, Whitney.
What a delight.
I cannot thank you enough. Honestly,
yes, you can.
All right, I will.
We didn't get to talk about talk shows, but that's okay. We'll do that, and we'll do a part 2.
Yeah. Can we? Will we?
Sure.
Please? Great.
Do you do part twos?
I do.
I mean, you don't.
Rob Riggle and Dave Keckner, actually.
Fuck.
No, they've both been on twice, and very few people have. I just realized that.
That's weird.
So you're putting together the new hour. You've been performing it. I believe there's some dates on your website.
Yeah.
That show some upcoming
stand-up comedy performances
shows around the country.
Hopefully
St.
dazzling.
Louis.
Huh?
Hopefully St. Louis is one of the...
St. Louis. No, I'm never going to St. Louis again. It's ruined my life, frankly. Yeah.
So people can go there and see where you'll be in their city and come see you putting together the new hour. And then when do you tape the new hour?
I'm taping it in August.
At?
I don't know yet.
Good.
I think I want to do it around here. I've done my last two actually in LA, and I think I'm just going to keep doing it in LA because I love LA audiences.
Wow.
Yeah. Why not? Thank you. I just like, why everyone's like, I'm going to go shoot my special and it's like, why?
Yeah.
What? No one's like watching specials like, but where was it shot? Nobody cares.
In a theater.
Yeah. No one's like, it wasn't in Austin. I'm not watching.
That's
like
right.
It's just like I just you know.
She didn't shoot it in my town. Fuck that.
Yeah, fuck that. Totally.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
It's I just.
I admire that because I find LA audiences on average to be more difficult.
Interesting.
They seem to be.
They are discerning.
They know too much.
Yes, correct. That's true. That's true. They're like,
there's a lot of this.
We just saw Steve O at Largo.
This
better be good. We just saw Pauly Shore at Starbucks.
Thank you. You nailed.
Like it's just you have to be.
You nailed why I rarely perform in Los Angeles.
Yeah. No, I get it. I do like Irvine, like Pasadena, Ice House. You know, like you kind of gotta
get a little away from show business.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the key. You're just like, why am I bombing for my agents?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't need
this.
Yeah. All right, so we will say good night to this particular recording, and is it just at Whitney Cummings on the Instagram and the Twitter?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sure.
And then people will see they'll come see you in their towns and see the special. And Roseanne drops March 27th.
Yes, sir.
And every Tuesday thereafter. For 9 shows, anyways.
Is it on a Tuesday?
I know the 27th is a Tuesday.
How did you know that?
Because I'll be doing something on the 27th.
Really? You'll be in St. Louis?
Very nice. An audience just wrapped up the show.
On it.
I'll be actually playing poker live on television.
Tune in for that. Do not watch Roseanne.
Earlier.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you our lead-in?
Yes, we are your lead-in. On CBS Sports Network, I'll be playing poker with Jason Alexander and Phil Hellmuth, one of arguably the best poker players in the world.
Playing poker with an actor must be a nightmare. You must be so good at it.
Well, or
I feel like actors shouldn't be allowed to play poker. It's like steroids.
Right.
In sports.
It's not. You're cheating.
You're cheating.
Yeah, and I do also have a cream that I put on my forearms before we start, just so I can hold my cards without any insecurity.
I don't know why that is so funny to me. It was just the fact that you did this.
Yeah, because it's great podcasting, audio. For me to demonstrate putting cream on.
I'm just imagining people driving their cars listening to this podcast. It's like, what is that?
Well, you know what's interesting about... Did you read Steve Martin or listen to his? I highly recommend
Born Standing Up?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He reads it in the audio book version.
I haven't heard it.
Because now you're listening to Steve Martin tell that story of that book. Please get this, people. So his first album, Let's Get Small, is so physical.
Yeah.
And I remember listening to it, imagining what those people were laughing at half the time. So that's why I give myself a little break in my guests, too, if we do things physical on a podcast and the audience. Because it forces the audience to kind of do a little...
When I read my audiobook, I don't know if they cut it all out, but I remember being like, and then this happened. I'd be like, I'm doing this thing with my hands where I'm making like a little
they cut it
thing, a triangle. Like I would like explain to them, like as if they...
Oh.
Really?
We have some Uber fans.
That's so weird. I also cried in my audiobook. Did they cut that out? No. Fuck. See, it was what? Oh, I'm sorry. That makes me feel terrible. Oh, gosh.
We're going to continue this group therapy session, but there's no reason, since the audience is not mic'd, it isn't fair to them, those listening.
Oh, right. Sorry.
No, don't be, because we are going to continue speaking with just the audience for 7 minutes. Thank you all for being here at the Dynasty Typewriter at the Hayworth in Los Angeles, California. Whitney Cummings, ladies and Jews. Until next time, and as always, get out of my face.